Jim Deedlow, host of JED and Region on AM 1230 WJOB and 104.7 FM. Also streaming live on the TuneIn app. We're also in video on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. All three of them. There we go. Hey, let's take a look at traffic and weather. It's pretty light on the traffic, just not a lot of things going on the roadways. As you are looking at 294 around the city, looking pretty good. 80 going east and west looks okay. Bishop Ford is getting bad already, starting at the Steel Bridge on up to the Merge. I don't know why that is. Anybody has a previous accident or anything, give us a call or text us to 219-845-1100. And then the Skyway, Toll Road, Borman, I-65, those are all moving along pretty well. All right, that ought to do it with traffic. Brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. And let's take a look at the weather. You know, it's just, we are now the third wettest May on record. And I don't know what you do with that other than you can't figure out why you're in kind of a blah mood. Well, it just, we thought the weather was going to get good, and then for like 5 days it was just rainy and cold. This morning it's just kind of nyeh outside as it's kind of gray, and that should lift, though. And even though it won't really get warm, it should get sunny later and a high of 65. Winds right now is another one of those north winds coming off the lake at about 10 miles an hour, and it's 53 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest. It's 55 degrees out at Local 395 in Portage, and it is 54 degrees at Local 41 in Munster. And tonight, partly cloudy, gets down to about 50, so another cold night. Tomorrow, though, partly sunny and warmer, and a high of 72. And then Friday, a high of 81, mostly sunny. And then by Friday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday, highs in the 80s. So, you know, we have something to look forward to. All right, here is the press release that finally came out here, and it's the Growlers Bar press release. We'll get to that in just a second, but right now we'd like to say hello to Verlie Suggs. Verlie, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Jim?
All right, I had a little technical challenges this morning, but as long as they all happen early.
I came bearing gifts. Nobody will eat a brown banana in my home.
No, really?
And I know that's how you like them.
Verlie,
and of course, they're from Strachan Van Til.
You know what? I'm gonna let this sit for a day. This one's This one's not even ripe yet.
Oh my gosh! If they're not yellow and green, we won't eat them. Sorry.
This banana right here is huge, by the way. What? You know, look, if you guys are watching, look at the size of this. It's bigger than, it's as long as my head. Look at this. You know, I feel like Get Smart. Hello? How are you? What are you doing?
He actually used a shoe.
Same idea. In some of the things, though, he would pick up anything and make it a phone. Yeah, it'd be, go ahead. Hello? What are you doing? All right. Yeah, I'll be right over. But this thing has got to be, let me see, 1, 2. If you go the outside circumference, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got to be 8 inches long.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, well, since I'm a guy, I think it's 11 inches long. But it's I don't know what to say. That is a massive, perfect banana in about 12 hours. This thing
it would have gone into the trash in my house. So, yeah.
This isn't even ready yet. You got to have it where it's slurping off. It's a little bit, when you open it up and there's a little bit of brown on the outside and it's hard to eat. You can't really touch it with your fingers. You kind of got to eat it off the skin.
I told Michael, I said, take a banana for breakfast tomorrow morning before you leave. And when I looked, he hadn't taken one. And I'm like, why didn't you? It has brown on it, you know? So I'm like, yeah, well, no one else is going to eat it either. So let me take it to Jim.
And I'm in the middle of eating an orange, so it's kind of sticky around here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't need to add to it.
Well, it's like when I come in on Fridays for the East Chicago show, I always have to clean the counters and everything because you eat your orange right on the counter. You got all these paid shows coming in after you, and you just like eat food like it's your kitchen table.
Yeah, you know, you're right. And that has been brought up by a number of people, but when you sit here a long time, you get hungry.
Yeah, but a napkin works. A paper towel, a newspaper.
Speaking of newspapers, let's talk about the melee in downtown Highland. According to the Times, the Northwest Indiana Major Crimes Task Force has been tapped to sort through Saturday's shooting that left 2 off-duty officers injured outside Growlers on the highway in Highland. Prosecutor Bernard Carter and the Highland Police Department said they requested the task force to assist Highland Police due to complexity of the investigation. Carter previously said a lot of unanswered questions remained in the case with multiple conflicting statements. Carter confirmed O'Neill Cruz Burgos of Burnham, Illinois, was released from custody early Monday morning. So he was released.
They could only hold him for 48 hours without charging him. And so they had to release him.
They can only hold him, yeah. All individuals involved still may face charges, Carter said. So, Highland Police are urging the public to come forward if they have cell phone video or witness Saturday's melee between 2 people and the off-duty officers. So, what the guy shot in the head was Officer David Aguilera, who was at the bar as a patron, and evidently he is doing okay for getting shot in the head. I don't know how you get shot in the head and you're doing okay, but
well, maybe the bullet grazed his head.
Yeah, or I don't know. It's just kind of weird. And Aguilera was bleeding from the brain and transferred to Advocate Christ. The other man shot, Officer Dwayne Brown of Gary, was working as a bouncer at the bar. 2 men left Growlers, returned, and tried to re-enter. They told they couldn't come in. Minutes after, so that's all we know. It's kind of a weird case, but we had Cindy call in, and she said she heard 8 or 9 shots. She lives right by there. That in kind of rapid succession.
Well, you figure you have 2 officers and 2 individuals. So, yeah, hearing 8 or 9 shots when there's probably 4 guns involved, that's not really a whole lot of shots. It was a shootout at the OK Growlers. But the interesting part is you have 1 police officer from Gary who's working, as the bouncer. So he's off duty. You have another police officer from East Chicago who's actually a customer drinking at the bar. So I kind of question why he got involved at all, because he's drinking. So even though he's an off-duty police officer, he should have probably stayed out of it totally, because he's already impaired.
All right, let me take the other side of that. What if there is a melee going on and a police officer is in danger with 2 guys that looks like it might be escalating, and you're a police officer and you sat at the bar, you looked over and you saw it, the cameras see that you understand that it's there, and you do nothing?
911.
Okay, I understand that, but that's a tough position to put a police guy in there, whether he's drinking or not, he takes an oath to, maintain safety in the world or in America, and there's a problem. It could have been right near him, and he's not supposed to respond. And I've heard this from other people, and someone else was criticizing it yesterday. But, if you're a cop, you're a cop.
Well, look at the cop. The Lake County police officer was drinking on the job at the air show and ends up doing a hit and run. So he was impaired. He shouldn't have been working. Now he's suing the Lake County Sheriff's Department, saying that he warned them that he was having post-traumatic stress and that he had been drinking. And so he was working on the job and he was impaired. I just think that, calling for backup. If he pulled out a gun, I don't know that he pulled out a gun. It's questionable because you don't know how much he's had to drink as well, and getting involved in something.
That's an issue. I got that part. If a policeman's drinking and something happens in his vicinity, is he supposed to respond or not? I don't know the answer to that. You know what? If they go to the academy, what do they teach? All right, you're out drinking and you've had a few drinks, and just a little bit away from you, there is a melee, okay? And it looks like it may escalate, and there may have even been guns pulled or whatever. What are you supposed to do? You've been drinking, so you have that as a factor. Do you stand down because you have been drinking or what? I don't know. I don't even know if they would teach that deep of a...
I'm sure they teach it at some point. I mean,
Anybody? Any former policemen or any policemen or trainers or anybody want to tell us what you do in that situation? What's the cop do? It's 2:40 in the morning. So maybe he just got off and maybe he hadn't even really been drinking or had just started. I mean, right? I mean, there's a lot of policemen who get off at odd hours out of East Chicago, right? So maybe he just got off. We don't know. But just to say, for discussion's sake, that you are a police officer and you're drinking and something happens. That is a good question. I don't know if you're supposed to respond or not.
right. Well,
I mean,
have
have
to
you
hear
ever...
from somebody who actually runs a police department. and what
Anybody
they
want
tell
to
their
comment?
officers.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's people that have answers to that. Just call us or text us to 219-845-1100. That's one I don't think I've ever covered here in all of my years is a police. Well, I mean, we've covered policemen who've been drinking, and it was obvious that in the situations like Mikulich?
Yes.
You know that. All right, let's talk about that one. That's a weird one because Guy Mikulich was, according to the accounts we've read, was at the Gary Air Show. What do you know about this thing?
Well, I just said what I knew was that he had been drinking. He's suing the Lake County Sheriff's Department now because he says that he had been suffering post-traumatic stress and after responding to another incident. And so he told them he had a drinking problem. He didn't want to work that shift. Sheriff Bunsich had told him a number of times to man up, do your job, go to work. And he didn't want to be there. Now that's why he's suing. He says he was impaired. He hit this guy. He left the scene. Luckily, other officers tried to cover for him. Luckily, there was footage that caught everything. And so he, got charged. But now he's suing, saying that they knew he had a problem.
So if you guys remember this, he was working the Gary Air Show, and he was leaving, I believe, and some guy was outside of his car putting stuff in or whatever.
Yes.
Or maybe something was wrong.
Loading up his car. His family saw him get hit by this car, and the driver leave.
Yeah, the alleged events are that he hit the guy, and then
he was actually found guilty.
And then he is not, because he pleaded guilty.
Pleading guilty.
Guilty, but mentally ill.
Exactly.
Okay,
so that's
I don't know
not
if
alleged then.
No, but I don't know if he's been sentenced yet.
He hasn't been sentenced, but he's also suing.
Yeah,
I think it's Strachey, his attorney, or something. I'm not sure.
So he has
Strachey.
two things going on. One is he's pleaded guilty but mentally ill out of recollection there. And then he has turned around and is suing the county for not dealing with his mental problems
He's not only suing the county, he's suing the sheriff as well.
directly.
Yes.
And in all irony, he's suing a guy who's away for 15 years.
Right. So maybe
I don't know what you know what? I come in here in the morning and I think that the craziest stuff is going to be at the national level, but it's just not always at the national level. But we do need to talk one that kind of relates here locally. President Trump came out and said this yesterday.
Wait a minute. You can't switch over when you're talking about police officers because you have Dan Murchak from the Sheriff's Department who has also pled guilty to lying to the FBI.
What, he's on the phone?
No, I'm just saying that's another incident that's dealing with the same topic.
Oh,
So
I thought
here's
you meant he
like
was calling
third
in.
in command, and for $500, now his whole career is destroyed. He's got a felony. He can't run for any office. I mean, he's got this taint for $500.
What do you make of that?
I think that this should be a wake-up call for people, but for some reason it isn't. It hasn't gotten through to people's heads not to run their campaigns from their offices, not to take bribes, not to, be unethical.
I think it also is getting through to people not to run.
Nah, they're still running.
Nope. I think that there are capable people that will stay out of the political realm with it just isn't worth it, because it's not just that you're like, all right, well, I'm not going to do anything wrong, but if all the people around you are doing something wrong, why would you want to get involved with that?
Because you want to do something right.
Stop,
you want to
will
change
you?
the mindset.
Yeah, well, I just don't see it. I think that
I see it.
there's two things going on here. Here at the local level, we went in and the feds came in and they've cleaned, right? And they have purged a lot of the old guard way of thinking out. Not all of it, okay? I mean, they went pretty deep on getting Van Til and Philpott and Buncich. I mean, they knew what they wanted to get one way or another out of those folks, because you knew that if you're an old-time Lake County politician buying into the old way, that you were cutting corners somewhere, okay? And they've got that. I wonder how deep they need to go, or do they have to go all the way to every little corner of Lake County politics and spend millions more to go after politicians? Almost basically, as soon as you're elected, you're under, you're being surveilled. Same thing with the president of the United States. To be honest with you, why would we've had a guy gets elected for a year, he's under investigation, and we can't come to some resolution? Does that mean you're going to get elected, and the whole time you're there, you're under entire investigation? I'm tired of it.
How long was the sheriff under investigation before they actually charged him? How many years?
They had a 4.5 year.
Exactly. So why should the president get any less? If they were surveilling his campaign, if they are doing an investigation, then what do the feds tell me? They take as long as it takes, and they spend as much as it takes to bring about justice. That's what they say. So then, hey,
what's the offshoot of that?
The law.
What's the offshoot of that? We have a country that is basically unsure of itself right now because of an investigation of its top leader, and then it adds to the divisiveness. I think a little resolution here would be in order. And I don't think that you bring leaders on and then say, oh, we're not even gonna use the normal ways of doing law. We're gonna get a special investigator to come in and just investigate you for over a year.
How long did Watergate take? How long did they investigate President Clinton? How long did his impeachment process take?
There was an impeachment process through the normal channels, right?
What, after an investigation?
After
right?
investigation, and there, I don't know the answer to that length, but I'm telling you right now that the constant investigation of someone who gets elected when there isn't any real evidence about the actual person doing, there's no evidence that I've seen that Donald Trump has colluded with Russia, people around him and so forth. At some point, they just got to get a resolution here. It's not altogether different from what's going on here at the local.
You don't think that he's tried to obstruct justice in some ways by firing people who are investigating him?
Obstructing justice is something, even this tweet I read here, let me read it again. And the tweet is being interpreted by some, some who want to take Trump down. I hereby demand, and will do so officially tomorrow, that the Department of Justice look into whether or not the FBI infiltrated or surveilled the Trump campaign for political purposes. Such demands were made by the people within the Obama administration. Now, that could be taken as obstruction of justice. I get that.
Okay.
But the actual crime of colluding with Russia, let's figure it out, man.
Well, once you open one can of worms, you don't know what might pop out.
Exactly. So why don't you just get elected president and know you're going to be investigated?
Well, if you get elected the way he did, then perhaps you should expect it. You have individuals here in this county who have gone through the same thing. We just mentioned Dan Murchak for $500 now. I mean, he lied to the feds. So granted, it happens. Mary Elgin gets sentenced tomorrow. I mean, how long did her investigation? It took, those FBI trucks showed up at her headquarters during the election 4 years ago. It took 4 years to get to this point where she will be sentenced tomorrow. So why are we so shocked that it's taken a year to investigate the president?
That's one way of looking at it. But what has the president done?
What did Mary Elgin do?
I'm
We didn't
just
know
saying
until
that
they
if you're
right?
gonna run a country where a guy gets elected, and all right, now you're elected, all right, you're under intense investigation, and everyone around you is, and there's all these subpoenas flying around. Fine, get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, get to the bottom of it, right? But make sure that you do get to the bottom of it, because if you rush it and then you don't do a thorough investigation, then you're disservicing the citizens of this country as well. Tom has been patiently waiting there. I know you like to keep your callers waiting.
Hey, Tom.
That's okay. I'm enjoying the conversation, the banter, as it might be. And let me just say this about that, and then I'll move on to the growlers. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it acts like a duck, it's a duck. And you are judged by the people who you surround yourself with. And that's what I was told by my father years ago. And you know what? Dirty people act dirty. That's all I'm going to say in that instance. But as far as the growler situation, I was alerted to that right after it happened. I was involved in law enforcement on the Illinois side, and I just got my youngest that just went out of the academy. And you know what? I was just in growlers, and it's a shame because I still go in there and meet people from work, and we have a few, and it's a nice place, nice area. We enjoy going there, and it only takes a few idiots to cause something like that. Now, that being said, I was taught, as it was my youngest, that weapons and booze don't mix. As far as carrying them into a establishment that has liquor or drinking, that you kind of disassociate yourself. But like Jed, what you said, once a mayhem happens, it's hard when you're an officer to disassociate yourself and not step in and try to diffuse the situation.
All right, let me say something, then you can retort here, Verlie. The reason that this comes up is that what Verlie is saying has been said to me at least 3 or 4 times since this came out, because everyone's talking about the growlers thing. And one of the things is like, hey, if that cop was drinking, he shouldn't have been doing anything. But you bring up a good point. We don't know how much he was drinking. And then if you're a cop, no matter how much you're drinking, you're programmed to respond to an emergency.
But sometimes what you consider an emergency might not necessarily be an emergency. You could help to escalate a problem where it might have been able to be diffused, just dealing with the bouncer and the 2 individuals that were trying to come back. I mean, if that was the case, then every nightclub or bar would have to have a whole police department sitting in their parking lot when they close. I mean, they pay a bouncer who happened to be a police officer. What better security can you get than an off-duty police officer?
You have one guy there, though, and the other guy, who knows? He may have known he was a cop, or if that escalates, the cop who's sitting there, it's very difficult, whether he's drinking or not, to not get involved in this thing. Tom, your final comment.
Well, exactly what you said, Jed. It's a really tough call. Not knowing all of the information, I can't make a determination. But like I said, it's unfortunate that a nice place, that nice area, all it takes is 2 idiots to cause mayhem like that.
You got it. I like the bar. Thank you. I've gone there. I go there, and once in a while I got to meet someone who smokes, so we go there. I'm not a big fan. I sit by the door so you can get some air going through there, but they have all those big air purifiers and stuff. It's a nice bar, and it's run by decent people.
Hey, they just wanted to put a mural on the wall. I think they got it shut down, but they just wanted to paint a mural on the outside wall. So it's a part of the community in Highland. A lot of people like the place. So hopefully that this incident doesn't, taint its reputation and ruin its business.
Hey, what number are we going to? Would you say we're going to 4? Arturo, you're it. Go.
Hey, how you doing, Jim?
What's up?
Good morning, Verlie.
Good morning, Arturo.
Hey, no, I was just calling to comment on that Growler situation. I don't know if you noticed, but yesterday at 8:21, right around 8 p.m., there was a press release by WGN. It's by Eric Runge. You could probably look it up. WGN News, and what they're saying is their sources are saying that they saw a video of the incident, and it says that it shows that officers were clearly looking for a fight. That they followed the men outside the bar after they threw them out. They actually followed them outside, taunting them, and one of them started getting beat up and got pistol whipped, and that the weapon flew. They hit them so hard that the weapon flew out of their hand.
Oh my goodness!
So they went for the weapon, and that's when the shootout started. They started shooting at each other. But that's a report from WGN, came out yesterday about 8 p.m. You can look it up yourself. I don't have it in front of me, but you know.
So how does that change things?
A lot.
Well, yeah, a lot.
Because the prosecutor's office said that there may be more charges. So that made me think that it has to do with not only the individuals that tried to come back to the bar, but the officers involved.
When that said that in the Times, it said that they're still investigating possible charges against everyone involved. That makes you wonder what's going on. Now they've brought in the task force to look at it. The Major Crimes Task Force is what they're having investigate it. Something's going on here, and we don't know everything that happened. And then, if this is indeed the guy who was involved in the shootout, O'Neill is his first name, then they let him go without charging him. There's a lot of kind of irregularities here that may lead to kind of where you're leading there, Arturo. Yeah. Let's ask you. Let's ask this question though. Let me get this. If you're a cop and you're sitting there and you're drinking and a melee breaks out, what do?
That's when you have to use your best judgment as an individual. Forget that you're a police officer. Forget your title, but as an individual, because you all know that Indiana is a shell-issue state on firearms permits. So anyone can carry. You don't have to be a police officer to carry. All you have to do is not have any felonies. Now, if you have a weapon on you and you're drunk, then you have to use your own best judgment and not get involved, because I am not in the position or in the condition to get involved. That's my opinion on that.
Great, Arturo. That's perfectly said.
Arturo, thank you for calling in. 219-845-1100. Is this the Cindy who heard the shots?
Yes, it is.
All right, so you live right near there. What's up?
Okay, all I wanted to say is I wanted to let you know exactly what your caller before me did. And this is on Facebook, and it does indicate that all the surveillance tape that they do have indicates the officers took off their bulletproof vest, and they challenged the gentleman. From what I understand, bouncers are not to leave the door, where they're saying now that these officers followed the one guy. The other guy was already inside. The guy went outside to use his phone. Now, this is all hearsay. The other guy went out to use his phone. When he tried to come back, he did encounter problems with the bouncer. The cousin that was inside saw them beating up his cousin, so he went outside.
Okay, all right. So we're getting into some pretty hearsay area, but there is a from what the reports that we have, and I have the official press release in front of me, and I'll read that in just a second. But you're right. Somebody had left and was trying to come back in for whatever reason. Okay, we know that, and that's when this whole problem started, because it was getting late and the bar didn't want new people coming in. They were trying to get people, trying to wind it down.
And that happens.
And that happens. So that's where the altercation starts. All right, we've got that part. But to get to the question that we were talking about, if you're a police officer and you're drinking there and something breaks, what do?
You let the people that are hired take care of it. you are a customer. You have nothing to do with that. Now, if he would, I think that if I would have seen, but again, he was in there drinking. And like the gentleman Arturo just said, you have to think. If you're a police officer, even the bouncer, you have to think. You have to know that you are going to deal with these kind of people. So you do have to have the stuff upstairs to realize you have to handle it as a police officer. Now, just looking at that guy's face, he didn't just fall on the ground. Okay, I mean, and I'm not saying anything about the police officers. I respect every man in blue. I respect all of them. But for no charges to be filed, it's just getting creepy. But I do want to say that yesterday you indicated that I said that I was afraid to go anywhere now, and I'm not afraid because I choose where I want to go. Just like I pick my battles, I choose if I want to go somewhere and have a good time and not worry about this kind of situation happening.
Okay, you started kind of a maelstrom yesterday when you said, hey, I don't go to festivals anymore, basically because I'm afraid of this kind of violence.
That's right.
And so a lot of people are like, hey, well, if you do that, then they win. You know, you're living in fear and the bad guys win.
That's why I said it's not that I'm afraid to go. I choose not to go because I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to be going to a festival with my mom, and she's elderly. She could hardly, she doesn't walk fast. And something like that happen, why would I put her in danger's way? Sometimes you can look what happened at the St. Thomas More Carnival. Now you have to go through metal detectors or something. That doesn't make it fun. That takes the fun away. I don't want to go to places like that. One time I was walking down with my nieces on Highway Avenue going to the main square, and there was this group of gentlemen, and my nieces are some good-looking girls, and it was summer, it was hot, and these guys are going to do cat calls to them. And, they didn't know what to do, and I just kept telling them, just keep walking, because these guys were on both sides of the sidewalk. I don't need to put up with that kind of stuff. And they were not from Highland. You could tell by the way these guys were dressed. But that's the kind of stuff you have to be aware of. You have to know your surroundings. I go into a place now, and I look where the exit is.
Okay, I get all that, but when you said I'm not going to festivals because of this kind of violence, I mean, that's a big statement. A lot of these church fundraisers, I mean, what are you going to do, not go to a crowd the rest of your life?
No, I go into the crowd, but I pick my crowd that I go with.
You don't want to go to big festivals where there's just a ton of people from...
We went to the Sox game the other day. I felt fine. You know why? Because you have to go through a metal detector. I don't have anything on me that they could find, but the guy behind me might.
Yeah, but you just said that takes the fun out of it when you got to go through a metal detector.
Oh, no, I never said that. Nope. I'd rather go through a metal detector and have everybody else to have a good time. When you're at these festivals, you don't know what these people have on them or what gang is going to meet the other gang or what person they see that he's alone, so they're going to go after him. That's everywhere you go. And I'm not afraid to go out. They don't frighten me. They frighten me with whom I'm with. And
okay.
If I know that I don't feel safe somewhere, I'm not going to go in there.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Cindy.
Okay.
219-845-1100.
What I'm reading right now, it's saying that there were 5 bouncers there, in fact. So it wasn't just the one bouncer, and that both police officers are, released from the hospital and home. So the one that was shot in the head is at home as well.
This is a tough situation. Alcohol, guns, late at night.
Well, luckily somebody has some video footage now to perhaps exonerate the 2 individuals or the one individual that was initially arrested.
Hey, guys, stay on the line. I'll be right to you right after this. It'll be a short break. Be right back.
I want to be like the pretty people on my TV.
Now you can.
All I need are gleaming white teeth.
We can help you.
Can you find the right dentist for me?
Dr. Randy Coulteritis, he does cosmetic dental.
Will he hurt me?
No, he's gentle.
I'm terrified of pain.
He's the kindest in the land.
He sounds great. Could you repeat his name?
Dr. Andy Coulteritis, 219-836-1111.
Thanks.
From the Strachan Van Til Studios, your local Strachan Van Til has some great products on sale this week. Here's a few items you might want to add to your shopping list. Certified Angus beef boneless top sirloin, $5.99 a pound. Large pineapple or cantaloupe, 99 cents. Pleasant View milk, $1.99 a gallon. And Hinkley Springs water, 24 packs, $1.99. Strachan Van Til, proud to be Indiana made and dedicated to being Indiana's grocery store.
For a fast and friendly car wash, go to Easy Clean Car Wash. Easy Clean is happy to announce their new location's grand opening at 1637 45th Street in Griffith. Open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Or stop by one of our 3 other locations in Highland, Cherville, and Lansing. Free vacuuming, carpet shampooer, air freshener, and towel with every wash. And it's fast, easy, convenient, safe, and gentle. Go to myeasyclean.com for more information.
Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. I'm Jim Dietlow, host of JED in the Region, hanging out with you guys on a Tuesday morning, garbage day. Went back out and took the garbage out, and it smelled like holy hell. Hey, Tuesday, May 22nd of 2018. The time is 6:43, and here is what it looks like on traffic, brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. 294 around the city, a little bit heavy right past Cicero. But nothing big. You'll be okay. 80 going east and west looks good. But Bishop Ford is the one that kind of just keeps getting clumpy, starting early before the steel bridge. But once you get past the merge, it's actually a lot better. It's kind of the opposite of what we've been seeing lately. So it starts bad at about Dalton Avenue, stop and go-ish, all the way up through the merge. And then it opens up a little bit on the Randian. The Skyway and the Toll Road and the Borman and the I-65 corridor are all moving along pretty well, as is US 30 and Klein Avenue. If you have traffic, you know how we do it. We do it as a group. You either call or text 219-845-1100, 219-845-1100. You see, here's what is missing that needs to be done by tomorrow. These texts that are good, they need to be scrolling along the bottom. Okay, they're not getting transferred over because that computer's in the wrong spot. That needs to be fixed before you guys leave, okay? Sorry. And let's talk about weather. 53 degrees right now in the Calumet region, almost everywhere from the Strachan Van Til Studios where we're at. It's the last day of last week's sales right now if you want to get into Strachan Van Til's. And then you got a little light fog hanging around. It's 53 degrees at Certified Electrician, Local 697 in Maryville. And it is 54 degrees at Local 41 in Hammond. 65 should be your high. Still a cool day. But then tomorrow it starts warming up. Partly sunny and warmer tomorrow. By Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you should get it up around 80 degrees or even higher. And with some sun, partly sunny, some high clouds, but no real rain expected until deep into the weekend. And weather is brought to you by our good friends at Local 599 Carpenters Union. We had Jim Slagle in here yesterday. They opened that huge new facility on I-65. I think the entrance is on
Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi Street. But the IKORCC Training Center is something that the region can be proud of. It really is cool in there, and really training the next generation of carpenters to build our infrastructure. All right, she's Verlie Suggs. I'm Jim Dietlow. We got plenty to talk about, but the story about the Growlers melee, as the Times is saying, is they're taking it a little step further, and they've brought in the Northwest Indiana Major Crimes Task Force. They've been tapped to sort through everything that is that went on there at Growlers in the wee hours of Saturday morning. Lake County Prosecutor Bernie Carter and the Highland Police Department said they requested the task force to assist Highland Police due to the complexity of the investigation. That's according to the Times. I have the Highland Police Department's initial press release, which said preliminary investigation shows that 2 males had been inside Growler's bar and they left the business. They returned and were advised by Growler's security staff that the business was no longer allowing patrons inside as it was near closing time. A disturbance evolved between these two males and the two victims, which became physical, and it ultimately ended up outside near the east parking lot. And at some point in the disturbance, multiple gunshots were fired, but it is unknown by whom at this time. All right, let's take some phone calls. 219-845-1100. Mad Mac, you are on the air. What's going on?
Hi, Verlie. Hi, Jed.
Good morning, Mad Mac.
Is this like Growler's thing getting a little too old here? I mean, I get it's a shooting, and then a bunch of tough guys beat each other up. Case closed. I mean, Jesus. I don't know. I don't think about Growlers when I wake up. I mean, it's over. I don't care what they do.
A lot of people have been, Mad Mac. A lot of people are wondering. Part of it is that there isn't a clear fact line right now. You know what I mean? No one really has a definitive answer as to what happened, and so there's quite a bit of mystery about it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, Highland runs a pretty tight ship for the most part over there, and you don't have. There's no fights going on in those, with Langles and Growlers. Growlers is a little seedier, ton of smoking, a little this, little that, whatever. But I mean, they don't really have any problems. So this is a one-off, hopefully, and the next one's another 10 years away. When's the last time you heard of a shooting in Highland?
What about that stabbing at? Wasn't there a stabbing not too long ago in Highland?
What was that, 5 years ago over with some dingaling? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Once every 5 years.
Well, I think that's why it is so. It's part of the reason that it is kind of caught the attention. It doesn't happen all that often.
I don't know. Now we got the Indiana Task Force over there. At the same time, like I said, you can find bullets flying through the air in Hessville like every other night. I don't see anybody helping those folks out. Gary getting shot up like a piece of Swiss cheese. Man, nobody up there helping those folks. Hey,
Actually, there are. But the thing about it, because it's in Highland, you want us to move on. There are police officers involved in this. That's why the task force was brought in.
Off duty, whatever. It's a little boring now. But, Jimmy, I just want to congratulate you with defending Trump again here today. That's nice of you. And by the way, that Dan Merchick thing, it wasn't $500. It was multiple $500 that Dan conspired with a tow truck operator to convince the tow truck operator to give a series of $500 to a whole bunch of people to donate back to that dimwit's campaign.
Well,
we're not just talking
I don't know where you're getting
$500.
your information. I have it that it was that the guy gave, as far as I understand, just from reading the indictment. And that was, they said that he gave Dan Merchick, got $1,000 from a guy, and then directed him.
That's more than $500 out on the block.
It was $1,000 that you're allowed to get from a business. The additional $500 came from the same business, but they put it under someone else's name to hide that it was coming from the business. That's why it's $500.
Yeah, so
but the prior article in the Hammond Times cited there were multiple donations of $500. That's according to
Well, maybe you should read the current article.
There could be multiple donations of $500, but they're saying that there was one where there was an overt effort to conceal where it came from. And then the real issue here is that when the feds came in and they asked him, hey, did you conceal $500? He said no. Then that's what they got him on, was lying to the feds.
Well, the real issue is that the guy conspired well in advance to circumvent the law while he is a law officer to gain political traction and income to fund a campaign. He did it in a conspiratorial way to circumvent every law he could possibly come across.
Well, you're pretty much going over kind of like old news.
Right, I'm just telling you, though.
I mean, we've covered this.
This is an innocent $500 where he put it in the wrong account. It is a conspiracy with him and a tow truck driver to screw the residents of Lake County, as it seems every guy wearing a brown shirt down there does.
Hey, well, so because Dan Murchek and Tim Downs and John Buntich.
John Bonich, and you got Oscar Martinez
you just
with the currencies, et cetera,
hold on a
et cetera.
second. You have just extrapolated that to cover all the people down in the county, and that's the danger here.
Just the brown shirt guys, the guys in the sheriff's department. We got gun running, we got illegal money going through the prison, we got Bonich's girlfriend taking extra income for shoving as much medicine into that building as possible, et cetera, et cetera.
You know what?
All
right, I'm going to address that. Thanks for your comments. And this was something that I've talked about before, and that is, what is the level of trust and support for the Lake County Sheriff's Department right now? He's just saying anybody in a brown uniform, they're corrupt, and that's an extreme view, but it is not a view taken in lighter shades. But I mean, it's a view taken in lighter shades by other people. They're like, man, what's going on? Can we even trust? Then you get the Mikulich story coming out, and it's not a good view of our sheriff's department right now by the average person in Lake County.
Oscar Martinez overwhelmingly won the sheriff's race with 16,000 votes. Okay? His closest competitors were under 6,000. So apparently there's 16,000 people out of the 17% of people who voted who actually have confidence in the sheriff who is presently sitting in that position. Okay?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that
to the previous caller.
Yeah. I'm saying that at some level, Oscar Martinez, who is the sheriff, is going to have to do something a little bit dramatic to get some faith instilled back into the sheriff's department. I don't know what it is, but, that Mad Max an extreme. But there's a lot of people that are carrying around a less extreme version of that in their heads right now.
Well, that'll come out in November when they have the general election.
It's not a political thing.
It is a political thing.
It is not. It's
because
like, hey.
It's who you put in office. Because if it was about integrity, then you would have picked one of the people who's not already holding a county office, right?
You're defining this whole situation in a political thing, and I get it because, that you and Man Mac are similar in this. And that you define a lot of what goes on in the world in terms of politics.
No,
I'm
we're
talking
not
in
similar
terms of
at all.
Well, in this regard, you are. In other words, the average Lake County cop driving down there does not deserve to carry the taint of these other guys.
Exactly.
And he is at some point right now.
Well, the point is not so much that he's carrying the taint, because the average Lake County police officer is not carrying any taint.
Well,
they're looking at the leadership. Nobody's looking at the average officer who's driving and patrolling and doing their job. Just because one gets pulled over for drunk driving, that has nothing to do with politics. Hit and run, it had nothing to do with politics.
In your mind. But
it doesn't.
Look what he just said. He brought up the gun running. He brought up the Mikulich situation, brought up Buntich. You bring up Murchek. All of this stuff is done in the Lake County Sheriff's Department. And I even asked Oscar Martinez, like, what's going on? What's the attitude in the department? What's the attitude toward the officers? That has to be dealt with. You can't just act and say, well, this guy over here did it. Doesn't do anything to anybody else in a brown uniform. People take it and they carry it around. And I think that there needs to be a rehab of the image of the average Lake County officer, because they don't deserve to be carrying around what Mad Mac's talking about.
They don't. They definitely don't.
219-84. Let's take one more phone call and take a break. Dave, you're it.
That would be a far right view. I mean, it's everything he says is political, right? But Mad Mac, and
that's not a right or left view. I mean, there's been crimes committed by policemen in a regular over a number of years by Lake County sheriff's guys.
I agree
so at this point, you got to stop and you got to say, listen, we have to do something, so that we have to do some things to rehab our image and to actually make sure that these things don't happen. And it doesn't seem like I don't see it.
Only been in there for 8 months.
I haven't seen it. I have not seen any initiatives, and there's not even a recognition of the problem. because the thing that Mad Mac is saying is extreme because he's extreme, but he is giving voice to something that other people are carrying in a less extreme manner.
Okay, it's the biggest department in the county, and he's been in there for 8 months, right? And he did something unprecedented as in an outside national search for a new warden. The biggest problem was the jail, right? That's the white elephant, and that's, you know, a lot of problems came out of that, and it cost the taxpayers of Lake County a lot of money, millions of dollars. So I'm sure he had a punch list and said, "What's the most important? Let's fix the jail first, and then everything else will fall into place." I'm just assuming he had a punch list. I mean, any good person that organizes is going to have put the most important thing on top, and I'm sure the sheriff felt the jail was the most important. I mean, and that's it. Everything else, you know, if you have to sit each officer down in front of you and you know, give them an interview, then that's what you do to find out the sentiment. The only way you're going to fix the problem is from within. And you're right. Maybe morale was low. Maybe morale still is low. So you have to take a scalpel to it and not a hatchet, I guess is what I'm saying, to solve the problem. Once you solve the internal problem, you're right. I bet within Lake County, the sentiment of the, you know, oh, not again. It's just, you know, and I'm sure that sentiment is there, and everyone is concerned about that. But
I'm surprised that you're saying that.
Well,
because honestly, through this whole election, especially if you bring up, hey man, what's going on with the attitude and the morale, and what is it that is being done to repair the image of Lake County Sheriff's Office? You know, I asked that question a number of times. I got no answer. I don't even think people wanted to admit that there is a problem of morale in the Lake County Sheriff's Office.
Bring the sheriff in.
I just want to say this concerning the warden, because there are people who are concerned about his choice for warden. Part of the problem because he was at the GEO system, which wanted to come and put an immigration detention center right in Gary and other communities, Hobart and others. So that's part of it. There's also a story that came out in February of the New Hampshire newspaper stating that the warden, Michael Zink, is being charged in federal court. They're seeking access to records regarding an inmate who died, you know, in the prison system while he was a warden. So he's not totally untainted, but the good part is he's not politically connected here in Lake County. But it remains to be seen whether or not he's going to be good. Just because he hired somebody doesn't necessarily mean that this person's going to turn that jail system around. It just means that he did a search and found somebody who was willing to move to Lake County from
and was qualified.
New
not
England.
Like the previous guy.
Yeah,
he's qualified, and the previous guy wasn't. I don't know.
But the guy still has a cloud over him.
Yeah, there is no magic wand that's going to fix a systemic 30-year problem in 8 months. I don't care who you are.
We're not. Nobody's saying that, David. We're just saying there is. I'm saying, is there a recognition of what Mad Mac was saying in an extreme manner? There is there a recognition that the Lake County Sheriff's Department has had so many problems that there is I believe there's a morale problem within the department, and then I believe that there are people's perceptions of that department could certainly be better.
Well, the only one I hear it from is Mad Mac.
When I see an average Lake County police officer, I don't automatically assume that they're doing wrong. I have respect for any police department and any officer until they prove themselves not to be. I mean, Dan Murchak, I never had a problem with Dan Murchak, you know? So when things come out like this, of course, it taints that individual, but to me, it doesn't taint the entire department.
Okay.
You know, we're talking about this.
Gotcha.
Because of the fact because of growlers, the two officers there. I mean, this is not just a county problem. This is a municipality problem as well. It's perception, and it needs to be fixed. I mean, maybe we need to start holding everyone to a higher standard, especially the men and women that have badges on.
Exactly.
You know, and go from there. It's not just a county. I think we're just all hypersensitive in regards to our police officers nationally, because all the negative news we hear, and it's bad. Yes. You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. The news nationally is bad in regards to our officers. It's not just a county issue. It's a municipality issue throughout the United States.
That's true.
See ya. Thanks. Bye. We'll be right back here on the voice and face of the region. We're going to move on.
Come out to Napleton's River Oaks Honda during the Honda Memorial Day sales event and save big on all new 2018 Hondas in stock, including Civics, Accords, CRVs, and Pilots. This weekend only, the first 25 customers get a free smartwatch with a test drive. Come find out why you always get our best deal at River Oaks Honda. As always, Indiana residents pay Indiana sales tax right off 8094 on Torrance Avenue or online at riveroakshonda.com.
Second to none since 1931.
Must be 18 years or older with valid driver's license. Limit 1 per household. No purchase necessary while supplies last.
JED's Garden Family Restaurant, located at the corner of Klein and Ridge, is Griffith's locally owned family restaurant with a down-home feel and made-from-scratch favorites you will love. Open daily from 5 a.m. to midnight, JED's has you covered with breakfast omelets, salads, stir-fry, seafood, and steak sandwiches. In addition to our award-winning lemon rice soup, 4 additional soups are served daily. Along with our recently expanded spirits menu, Mondays are half-price margaritas and Wednesdays are $1 off domestics. Mention WJOB for 20% off your order. We'll see you at JED's at the corner of Klein and Ridge.
Eduardo's Natural Pizza in Munster has built a reputation for serving the finest Chicago-style stuffed pizza, loaded with fresh and natural ingredients. Not interested in stuffed pizza? Eduardo's has the best thin crust pizza, appetizers, salads, pastas, and more. Pick up a half-baked pizza from Eduardo's to take home and bake at your convenience. It's the perfect solution for those hectic nights. Eduardo's is located at 7920 Calumet Avenue in Munster. Dine in or carry out by calling 836-2010.
Here in Indiana, the Trump tax cuts are already working. Hoosier businesses are hiring, raising wages, and giving employee bonuses. In Washington, Senator Joe Donnelly said this:
If they bring a good tax bill before me that helps middle-class families, count me in every time.
Listen to President Trump on Senator Donnelly.
Joe Donnelly voted no on tax cuts, and he voted no on canceling job-killing regulations, which may be even more important than those incredible tax cuts.
Donnelly voted no on tax reform, even though the average Indiana middle-class family will receive a tax cut of more than $2,000. It's time for Senator Donnelly to change course. Call Joe Donnelly at 202-224-4814. Tell him the Trump tax cuts are working and to vote yes on S-2687 to make our tax reforms permanent. Paid for by One Nation, www.onenationamerica.org.
Hey, what's going on? AM 1230, WJOB on 104.7 FM, the voice and face of the region. Let's take a look at traffic. 294 around the city is okay until you get up near O'Hare. Then you've got some extra time through the Eisenhower, right past the Eisenhower. And then 80 going east and west looks pretty good. Bishop Ford has been off and on all morning long. It's getting a little bit better right now. It's basically the steel bridge through the merge. It slows down, but it's not stopped like it was earlier. So it's actually flowing a little bit better. Your problem right now is on the Skyway, and I got a text here. See if we got any photos of this car fire. Let's see, Jed. The car fire, let's see, this came on at 6:53, so this is about, it's 10 minutes old. But it says, Jed, there's a car fire on the Skyway. All lanes are stopped right now at the big bridge. Yes, and that is showing up now on the grid. So somewhere past 95th Street, so you get on there, there's that entrance at 106th on the Skyway, and then maybe about 10 or 12 blocks north of that, there's a truck fire, and for at least right now, it looks like that's blocked entirely, or is at least has some pretty decent backup into Indiana. So I don't know how you would get to the city right now. Both the Bishop Ford and the Skyway having problems. But on the Indiana side, we're pretty good on the toll road, the Borman, I-65, US 30, and Klein Avenue. Let's take a look at what's going on in terms of the weather. Really, we just want to see the sun. And I'm with you guys. If you're feeling a little bit out of it these days because of just the continued nasty weather, and it's not just nasty, it's this wind blowing off the lake, and it's raining, and then it's not raining, but it's damp. And I mean, there are areas of my lawn that have never had grass because I have so many trees. I'm getting little sprouts of grass right now because there's so much moisture in the air. It was the second. There was, if anybody goes by that truck fire on the Skyway, send us a picture. Jimmy Mulaney wants to show it up on the screen here. But in terms of April was the wettest April in 137 years. Now we're into the May, and already we're only at May 22nd, and we're the third wettest May. So we're lucky that the rain has kind of been spread out. It's not flooding things, but it gets into your soul. And here we are on another gray morning. I just want some sunshine, and you might get it a little bit later. We got some sunshine here. Is going to give us sports right now. Will Hatzel. Will, what do you got?
All right, well, these sports updates are brought to you by Johnny's Tap. In baseball yesterday, Valparaiso edged Highland 3-2. Marcus Golston and Gunnar Pullins both went 2 for 3 to lead the way for Valparaiso. New Prairie beat Munster 3-2. Munster's Jimmy Ford pitched 2 innings, striking out 5, along with going 2 for 3 with an RBI in the loss behind the plate. In softball, there were some postponements yesterday in the Maryville sectional. The delayed game between Hobart and Chesterton will resume in the top of the
That's in softball, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, will resume in the 5th inning tonight at 4:30. Following after that will be the game between Portage and Maryville, and then the semifinals will now be played Wednesday at 4:30 and 6 p.m. The Whiting sectional game between River Forest and Bishop Knoll was also canceled. It's scheduled for 5 p.m. today. And then in national sports, the Cubs will open a 2-game series at home against the Cleveland Indians. The game tonight starts at 6:05. The White Sox lost a close one to Baltimore yesterday, 3-2. The Sox allowed 3 home runs in the loss. In the NHL, the Washington Capitals defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-0. TJ Oshie scored 2 goals to help lead the Capitals to force a Game 7. And then in the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Celtics 111-102 after LeBron dropped 44 points. The Eastern Conference Finals is now tied at 2 games apiece, heading back to Boston. Again, these sports updates were brought to you by Johnny's Tap.
The girls softball sectional, if you guys have been following it, Christina, go ahead and switch back over here. The girls softball sectionals that get going in Crown Point may be the best softball sectional ever in Northwest Indiana. You have Crown Point, you have a hold on, Will, sit around for a sec. You have the defending state champion. You have Kankakee Valley on the rise, along with Crown Point and Lake Central. You've got a decent Munster team, and then there was one other one thing I think was at Lowell. I think there was 5 teams in that thing where I sat down with someone. Sorry, who could win this? Really, Crown Point, Lake Central. It's where it's going to come to, and I think Crown Point got a great draw on this thing. But that starts today is like Killer Tuesday, and I think it's at 6:30 that KV and Munster go at it. And then if you can look up the other game, I think a 4:30 game that is out there, and if you could get that for us. So if you're anywhere near Crown Point today, you're going to want to get out there. I'm heading out there. My nieces both play for Munster softball team, and I'll be heading out there. They had their big party on Saturday, and I had to take some chairs over there, but I wasn't allowed to come. I don't know why. But they had the big party on Saturday, and so girls softball right now, you don't realize what a high level it is happening at here in the Calumet region. Ryan Walsh will be back tomorrow, and we're going to do a little bit. I'll give you guys a full coverage of that Crown Point sectional because I'll be heading out there this afternoon. All right, we will get who that 4:30 game is there, but I think it's a 5 and a 6:30 game today. And if you're a girls softball fan at any level, you're going to want to get out to Crown Point today and probably get there kind of early. It's going to be packed. All right, guys, thanks a lot to Will Hatzel, and we'll have Verlie Suggs returning right now.
Register now for summer classes at Ivy Tech Community College with locations in Crown Point, East Chicago, and Gary. Classes start on June 4th. Ivy Tech is the top choice of Indiana's high school seniors and Indiana's adult students. We have experienced instructors, state-of-the-art facilities, and tuition under $4,200 a year. Learn more at ivytech.edu or call 888-IVY-LINE. That's 888-489-5463.
Men, are you taking Viagra or Cialis for ED? ED should not stand for expensive drugs. If you're taking Viagra, talk with your doctor about Sildenafil. Now you could get the same active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligram tablets for less than $2 each, saving over $30 per dose. Available at Vito's Pharmacy. Call us 219-228-7200 or visit us at vitospharmacy.com.
Vito's Pharmacy. All right, so here's what it is at this Crown Point sectional today. At 4:30, it's Lowell and Lake Central. And then at 6:30, it's Munster and KV. KV may be the sleeper here, believe it or not. I saw the former Hanover Central basketball coach. He works for Wendy's now. I forgot his name. Geez. Look that up for me, will you? He was the coach from like 08 to 14. He's a big wig at Wendy's. And we were talking about the shift of athletic prowess moving even further south. Hanover Central having some pretty good programs all the way around. Of course, Crown Point, KV, Washington Township is a very good softball team. And you get kind of this slow shift of the talent and the state competitiveness moving to the very south end and very east end of our metropolitan area. So the defending state champion Crown Point Bulldogs, Jimmy Mullaney, you covered that, didn't you? Yeah, Jimmy Mullaney was down there last year when we did that game, and the defending they got a cakewalk into the finals here. They get the best possible draw you could get. First of all, they beat Morton 10-zip yesterday, so Crown Point moves into the semifinals. And they play East Chicago Central, who is not a powerhouse in softball. So Crown Point has to be Morton and EC Central to get to the either Lake Central, Lowell, Munster, or KV. And quite frankly, it could be any one of those four teams. Lake Central's a favorite. KV's probably next, but it would take a tremendous effort by Munster today to be able to upend KV, and quite frankly, a tremendous effort by Lowell to upend Lake Central. But those games at 4:30 and 6:30 today, do it if you can get out there. Verlie Suggs is with me, and we're just talking about stuff that's going on around the Calumet region. Verlie, Eldon Strong got beat by Scott Jorgensen in a primary vote on the Republican side on the south part of this county for 7th District Council seat. It comes down to one or maybe two votes. I think they're saying it's a 2-vote difference right now.
It is.
Eldon,
Jorgensen had 2,219 votes to Eldon Strong's 2,217. So he would actually need 3 votes more to beat him, or 2 votes more to tie it. Now, recently, the election board met. They met on, I think, the 15th of May, and that was where they were able to go over any votes that were provisional votes or questionable votes to see if that would change the outcome. It's going to cost a lot of money, but Eldon's willing to pay it.
You know, that race still is just a little bit stupefying, because I thought Eldon Strong had a strong hold on what was going on in South County, and Scott Jorgensen came up and was able to just turn that up and down, and now the saga continues here as they're going to have the recount. Here's what Eldon Strong said in the Times. He said his supporters need to know who won the race, and that is why he filed the recount suit, which could cost thousands of dollars, with the possibility the recount won't change the outcome. You ever seen a recount change an outcome?
No, because Novak filed one against Mike Repay, and it didn't change the outcome. And if I recall, McKinley McNuttall filed one against Councilman Anthony Higgs the first time, when Higgs actually beat him, and it didn't change the outcome. Now, there was one nationally recently that I think it might have changed the outcome. But what Jurgensen is basically saying is, Eldon, here you're the councilman and you're questioning the election, basically by saying, what, do you question the machines? Are you questioning the integrity of the election by challenging me over 2 votes? Well, it's a tough call, but as I say, part of the reason why Eldon lost to Jurgensen, and part of the reason probably why Jurgensen was in this race, had to do a lot with Jamal Washington and the fact that Eldon Strong supported him for vice president on the county council.
And if you guys are, can anybody recall a recount overturning an election? Give me a call at 219-845-1100. There's one in my head that I can't get to because
here in Lake County,
here in Lake County, and I want to say I covered it in the mid '80s, and it's just for the life of me, just isn't popping up.
Now we had a revote in East Chicago with Pastrick and Babet, and that changed an election, but it wasn't a recount.
Yes, so anybody, you know what? The phone is dead. No one can come up with a changed election over a recount. Even a primary, I'll take. 219-845-1100. All right, the Verlie was talking about Dan Merchek. That happened in federal court yesterday. And according to Bill Dolan in the Times, a former high-ranking Lake County police administrator pleaded guilty Monday to lying to the FBI about receiving illegal campaign contributions as part of the towing scandal. That's Dan Merchek, a 24-year veteran and of the Lake County Police Force. He admitted to U.S. District Court Judge John Martin he accepted a $500 check to fund the former campaign for Lake County Sheriff, knowing the money came from someone other than the person whose name was on the check. So Danny's contribution to our community cannot be overstated. He's impacted countless lives, and I'm sure Danny will continue to work to improve the lives of all Lake County residents. His attorney, Paul Strachey, said, Dan Merchek has served our community for nearly 35 years and has received numerous... Hey, Mad Mac is calling me here. Is something wrong here? Somebody answer this. He has not only saved lives, but has also given his time to many local labor unions and philanthropic organizations. That's all true.
Yes, that's why I said that, it doesn't take away who he is as a man. Yeah, he took a bribe. It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. But apparently we never learn our lessons based on past experiences and seeing what it's happened in other cases. He took a bribe from a person who was wired, and then he lied, and the feds already had the tape showing he took it. So that, number one, you don't lie to the FBI. And number two, you live in Lake County. Assume everybody is wired. Just assume that. And then you won't say, I assume every phone call I make or take that somebody's listening in. I just am under that assumption. We have this Patriot Act. Anyone can listen. It just is the fact of the world we live in today. So why are you going to say something that's going to get you in trouble? Not that I'm going to say anything that's going to get me in trouble, but I get a lot of phone calls and I talk about a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to say anything that's going to put me in jeopardy because I'm not going to do anything that's going to put me in jeopardy. Yes.
How long have you been married?
This time?
Yeah. This time. How long have you been married to Suggs?
7 years.
7 years. So you're still within like the 7-year glow. Don't you guys make little kind of slightly or maybe not so slightly inappropriate comments to each other once in a while on the phone? Come on.
No, we really don't. To say I love you and, I can't wait to
whatever.
see you.
It's just stuff
no,
that's a
we
little...
don't have phone sex.
No, not phone sex, but
no,
sometimes
nothing inappropriate.
Sometimes you share intimate details on the phone. You don't?
Nothing that's bad.
Nothing that's bad, but...
Oh, baby, you know what? You were... Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but don't you... And I think about that sometimes.
We don't talk locker room talk. We don't... we just have a wonderful, loving relationship.
Yeah, but intimacy on the phone happens once in a while. Hey, honey, you're having an intimate. You haven't seen each
Jim,
other,
that's you.
and you're
How'd you
traveling.
end up with that splint on your hand?
And you're
What
traveling.
did you do?
I don't even know. That's the worst part.
It's
It just
probably
started.
carpal tunnel from writing that blog that you write.
Yeah, whatever it is, I can't figure out where it came from. But and sometimes I'll think about it. I'll have we'll talk on the phone, and I'll hang up, and I'll go, man, you know what? If somebody up in the sky is like listening to everything, that was kind of embarrassing.
See, no, I don't say anything embarrassing. You got to talk to Jim Weezer. See what
Let's
he's
see
got
how
to say from the
Jim's
party
doing right here.
standpoint.
Jim, how you been?
Hey, good. How you doing, Jed? Hello, Verlie.
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
What's going on?
I was calling in for two comments. First, there was a recount that was successful. I think it was a recount and a contest regarding, and I wish I could remember all the particulars, but it was regarding, I think, the Cherville town judge back in the late 80s maybe, or early 90s, where it was successful. That's about off the top of my head, that was the one I could think of. But my other comment, or I think the stronger comment, is back to what Christian Jorgensen said, because this is the Trumpian world we live in now. Because somebody uses a lawful process. I mean, the law provides that you can have a recount. And there's reasons. There's many, many legitimate reasons for that. And because, in this case, Councilman Strong decides to use a lawful process, he gets attacked for attacking the integrity of the system. That's absurd. That's philosophically a non-argument. The law provides that you can have a recount, whether you lose by 1 vote or 1 million votes. Now, there's practical considerations, but the fact of the matter is that this is what happens. If you decide that you want to engage in a lawful act and the other side doesn't want you to, they attack you for impugning the system.
But they're on the same side, Jim. Come on. That same argument could hold true if a Democrat said it. I mean, Novak and Repay challenged each other. So these guys are on the same team.
Yeah, but let me read.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me read the comment here. What Jorgensen said, he would like to know what Strong's good faith basis is to file the recount suit and show disbelief in the integrity of the election system. Here's what Jorgensen said. He said the election board and the election process has already said who has won. It sounds like Eldon Strong is just impugning the integrity of the entire system. So
that's absolutely absurd. First of all, recounts are based on good faith. Recounts are based on the fact that there's occasionally there could be human error. Occasionally, when counting teams, absentee ballot counting teams are counting absentee ballots, they miss something or they misinterpret something. That's the nature of the beast. I agree that recounts are a little more difficult in this day and age of computerization and the difficulty in changing the votes at the machines. Granted, that's different than it was in the old days, but it's no different when you're counting absentee ballots. You still count absentee ballots the same way, and they're counted by individuals who they act in good faith in trying to determine if the ballot should be counted or shouldn't be counted. But to turn around and say you're impugning the integrity of the system because you take a lawful act when the difference is only 2 votes. And by the way, all of those counts. If you're out there at Lake County, every count that's done on election night, up until you count provisional ballots and certify the results 10 or 11 days later, are unofficial counts. And there's a reason for that, because things could have happened. And that's all he's saying is, it's a 2-vote difference, and it doesn't make any difference whose side. I'm not saying this because they're Republicans. I respect both of those gentlemen. I know both of them. I get along great with both of them. That isn't the issue. Whether they're Republicans or Democrats. And in the case of Repay and Novak, there was a recount. I was the election board attorney.
That's what I just said. There was one.
I understand that's what you said.
Oh, okay.
But I understand what you said, Verlie. The fact, though, is that you have someone saying I would like to have a recount. There's a 2-vote difference. There could have been a mistake made here or there. The person on the other side, I don't care who it is, says, you're impugning the integrity of the system. That's terrible. That isn't what he's doing at all. He's just exercising his lawful right to do that, period.
Okay, we're talking to Jim. Let me ask you a question. Let's take it. We got that. All right, so talking to Jim Weezer. He is the head of the Lake County Democrats. So, Jim, I'm going to ask you, just looking across the aisle, it's not every day that a seated Democrat or a seated Republican gets unseated. In your mind, what happened out there in South County to allow that to happen?
Well, I think it was a couple of things. I think Verlie was correct in her assessment that the action that Eldon took, supporting Jamal Washington to be vice president of the council, was one that impacted him negatively politically. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think that's the only reason. Eldon is, at my analysis, this is me, just an outsider looking in. Eldon seems to be sort of a outlier in the Republican Party, kind of a real independent Republican, kind of from the former leadership, aligned more with the former leadership of the Republican Party, whereas Christian is a younger, more aggressive Republican who's aligned with the current leadership of the party, and I think they brought those resources to bear to help him out as well, which is the way campaigns are conducted. That's how I look at it.
All right. Jim, thanks for calling in. And if Jim Weezer only knows of one recount that may have been successful, and he's got a foggy memory at this, but the Schererville town judge in the late 80s, I'm looking for anybody that has anything. I'll go back all the way to the 50s or the 40s, any recounts that have been successful other than the one that Jim just mentioned. Thanks, Jim.
And Jim, excuse me, I appreciate that things are a lot better than they used to be, because I recall sitting there for a count on ballots for absentee votes that were never even included in an election, and you were there.
Yep, I remember.
All right.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you. What are you talking about?
There was an election, and after the results came in and everything, then like days later, they found a bunch of ballots that weren't even included in the election.
Was this,
So
when was this, like the 90s?
It was in the, no, I think it was like in the early, it might have been the early 2000s, late 90s.
You know, and this is just looking at it from the outside. It seems like there's a better process now that it's on computers. I mean, it seemed like, gosh, when I covered in the mid-'80s, and literally I would go around and I'd go to different election places and so forth, and I'm like, this does not feel right, man. I mean, these guys are coming in with bags of ballots. And who are these guys? I mean, they look like thugs out of like a central casting of like some sort of
people getting in there beforehand to check out the machines, and there was a lot of shenanigans going on back in the day.
Hey, speaking of back in the day, this guy's been around for a lot of days. Hey, Spike, how are you?
Good morning, Verlie. Good morning, Jed.
Good morning, Spike.
Weezer was right. That race was between Riga and Judge Anderson, sitting Judge Anderson now, and that was roughly about 18 years ago, I believe, somewhere in that range, that there was a recount and Anderson won the Democratic seat and won the race.
How many ballots were in question?
Man, when you get to be 16-9, Burley, you can't remember that far back. I don't remember who I was with last night, you know what I mean? But the best memory, it was close. You know, I can't really exactly remember, but I remember it was within 50 ballots or 40 ballots, and a recount was taken, and Judge Anderson prevailed in winning the recount.
So
when
he actually
Riga
had
won
lost the election and won the recount, or not? Okay.
Yes.
And that's 50 ballots.
Yes.
That's quite a bit. But then, if you look back then, wow.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was back just about, it was under 50 ballots, if I remember right, or it probably was closer than that, and the forces to be requested and do a recount, and he was successful in that.
All right. So that was Riga. Who was the judge at the time? Was it Anderson and Riga challenged him?
No. Judge Riga was the sitting judge. Judge Anderson ran against her. Riga ended up winning the original outcome, and a recount was taken, and Judge Anderson was successful in winning that seat.
And who's the judge now?
It is still Judge Anderson, and that's what I'm trying to remember. I think he served. This is going on his 5th term. Next year he would run to take over in 22 or 21.
All right. Well, way to go on that recall there. We appreciate that, Spike. Talk to you.
Now, isn't Chris Jorgensen the husband of the current Hammond City
As far
Court
as I
judge?
understand it, yes.
So that's interesting as well.
Why is that interesting?
Well, I mean, you know that they actually have to delay the closing of the court now.
Why?
Because of the overload on cases, that apparently this court that really is not necessary apparently has such an overload of cases that they have to actually extend the closing. And now here her husband may perhaps after this recount actually be on the county council.
You know, if you really, let's analyze that one. Well, let's talk to Radar Dan. He's been waiting a long time. Hey, Radar, how are you?
Hey there. So I think the call sign, not call sign, but your call phrase of the voice of the region needs to change on Tuesdays to the voice of reason.
Why? Am I more reasonable on Tuesdays?
Well, let's just say that the entire staff becomes more reasonable.
So you think,
based on the attendance of your partner in crime over there.
Thank you, Radar Dan.
Wait a second. So let's take a look at this. Verlie, with her intense political feelings, is more reasonable than I am?
Well, let's just say that the dynamics that are added with her presence in the studio bring a more reasonable outcome to any particular subject matter or argument that were to come to light.
Oh, wait a second. I got to take issue here because
I'm really tired because my dog woke me up at 2:30. I had 1,800 steps in because she wanted to go for a walk at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh,
Did you go? Did you do it?
You did that?
Yeah, if your dog wakes you up at 2:30, she wants to go outside.
I would open the back door and say, "Go out."
No, I did that, and then so we just went around the block.
That's unreasonable.
Well, hopefully it was a safe block. Well, it must be because you're calling, so yes.
Hey, Dan, here's the issue. I could get that Verlie's smarter than I am, that she knows a lot more about politics, that she's more passionate about it, that she's even more interesting than I am. And I get all of that. But I just take issue with the fact that she's more reasonable than I am because I just don't think that's right.
Okay, so it's a yin and a yang relationship. It's that dynamic there that balances out the show.
Yes.
All right, that
Again,
I understand
I'm going
that,
on like 3 hours of sleep. So.
Okay, well, I'm just going to have to, it's going to take me a while to digest this more reasonable factor. Hey,
he
man.
said reason, not reasonable.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right, well, hey, next time, take your dog out before you go to bed, dude. That's easy.
No, we did. She's having a couple issues right now. So,
you got to take her when she needs to go.
Exactly. If she's nudging, then, what would you, if a woman nudged you in bed, what would you do?
Well, if it was a human or a dog, that would be a big factor.
Well, the answer is you wake up because something has to happen. So in my case, and my dog was licking my hand. So it's like, all right, I know that's not, it's not the other person.
Well, let me just put it this way. It's been a long time since I've been nudged in the middle of the night by a human or a dog. I'll see you. Bye. We'll be right back here on the voice and face of the reason.
When you're in the dark, where do you turn to find a trusted professional who can assure the safety of your home or business electrical system? Certified Electrician is here to help. Looking for a highly skilled electrical contractor for your next construction project? CertifiedElectrician.com is where to find one. We connect you with pre-screened electrical professionals living right here in Northwest Indiana. Experts in residential, commercial, voice data video, and signage. Certified Electrician can fulfill all your electrical needs. Visit CertifiedElectrician.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Frank J. Mervan, North Township trustee. I would like to share with you why my coworkers and I love working for you at the North Township trustee's office.
Hello, my name is Lori Polgar, and I'm the Chief of Staff for North Township. I reside in Munster, Indiana. I enjoy working for Frank Mervan, our trustee, because he is always going above and beyond to help our community, and he shows compassion that is always needed during difficult times in individuals' lives.
Hello, I'm Jerry Siska from Highland, Indiana. I am the Director of Transportation here at North Township and have served in that capacity for over 20 years. Dial-A-Ride services the communities of Whiting, East Chicago, Hammond, Highland, and Munster. What I enjoy most about my time with Dial-A-Ride is my ability to help others and making a positive impact on someone's life.
Again, this is Frank J. Mervan, North Township trustee. If you or someone you know needs assistance, contact us today. Remember, at the North Township trustee's office, we connect people with services.
It's that time of the year. Graduation, showers, retirement, and birthdays. Catering by Steve's in Hegewisch is a full-service catering company and caters for all occasions. We can deliver to your party, or you can enjoy our delicious food in our banquet rooms. Also, every Friday we have our fish fry from 4 to 8 p.m. and all-you-can-eat fish and chips the first Friday of every month. Look at all we have to offer at cateringbysteve.com, or you can call 773-646-1071. Steve's is located at 13200 South Baltimore in Hegewisch and has been serving the Calumet region since 1958.
Yes, only love can break your heart. I should have known right from the start. Traffic on 294 is moving along pretty darn well up until Cicero, and then it's tight all the way up to the Stevenson. Allow extra time to O'Hare right now. 80 going east and west looks pretty good. You know, whenever I say that, allow extra times to O'Hare, and I just picture this couple that the woman's already getting the car ready, and the guy's just dilly-dallying in the house. And she just goes, "Here, you hear that? We're going to miss our flight because you're messing around in there so much." Anyways, 80 going east and west looks pretty good. The Bishop Ford, a little bit tight from the Steel Bridge on up to the southern end of the Dan Ryan, but it's moving pretty well all the way up to about 115th Street. And then it's about normal traffic through the merge. And the Dan Ryan itself is moving, but solid, put it that way. You have an earlier truck fire on the Skyway, and show us that picture now. And we do have a picture, thanks to the texter who put that picture onto our text line at 219-845-1100. It's kind of a weird spot on a fire. If you look at this thing, and I'll just describe it for the radio folks, and if you want to see it, you go to Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. And it is on the, it looks like, are you guys seeing that right as the second trailer? How do you start a fire in the second trailer? You know what I mean? It must have been something in that second trailer that somehow ignited.
Right,
typically,
something combustible.
yeah, typically it comes from something of the engine or the cab related. I mean, anybody, Dave or any of you truck drivers, have you ever been driving when something, or seen when something just starts on fire inside of a trailer unrelated to the engine or anything like that? It had to get a spark, or maybe just something, yeah, maybe, I don't know, electrical equipment.
It looks like maybe that tire is blown too. It's hard
Yeah,
to say.
so maybe it was, yeah, it's hard to, it just seems odd to me. I don't think I've ever seen that where the second trailer started on fire, that one that's furthest away from the cab. Anyways, that is on the Skyway. That's off to the right side right now. As you can see, the cones, that picture's about 5 minutes old, but it is, you can get through there, but you will see that truck fire, and maybe you'll have an answer as you go through on that. And so the Skyway Toll Road, though, are moving, and so is the Borman I-65 US 30 and Klein Avenue. Thanks a lot. We put it out there for someone to take a picture of that and send it in. You guys are amazing. It really makes me happy to see that. It doesn't make me happy that there was a fire on the Skyway, but you guys responded. And since it's becoming a much more visual thing that we do here on the streaming video, those are the kind of things we need. There's like pictures of stuff that's happening in the morning so they can put them up right away.
And a better weather map. Your weather map is like lacking. I'm sorry, but you do production over the air, so I'm just going to give you critique over the air.
No, I want that. I mean, we're here to make it better. And so did you guys hear that? You need to find a better weather visual graphic. Okay, I'll give you that. I like that one because it's so simple. But
Exactly.
it's
It's
very
too
simple.
simple.
It's very simple for me to read, and I can, I understand it. But it's actually AccuWeather, and you have a number of different formats to choose from.
Mhm.
And I think I chose the simplest format, and they have all of them. So I think you can actually just change the theme on that. Anyways, a high of 65 today. Dense fog in the morning that's going to lift, and then should get some sunshine later in the day. And believe me, that is more than welcome. And we have 5 days in which it should be sunny a considerable amount of the time. And we need it, Verlie. I mean, you need it,
We're
man.
supposed to get some sun later today. They said the fog was going to lift, and we might get partial sunlight.
High of 72 tomorrow, and then high in the 80s Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So finally some summertime weather. But I'll tell you what, man, it gets into your soul, all this dampness and cold and rain.
My
And
grass is so
gray.
lush.
Isn't it? Everything
Oh my
is
gosh,
so
I
lush.
love it.
Yeah, everything is just kind of came all at the same time. And if your lawn isn't looking good now, it ain't ever going to look good. And weather is brought to you by our good friends at Laborers Local 41, of which I'm a proud alum of that fine union. And then also traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. And the markets yesterday got up over 25,000 on the Dow on less worry on a trade war. And it looks like we may continue on that as overnight, if you take a look at what's going on at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the Dow is up another 50 points this morning. Let's take some phone calls. Verlie Suggs and I. You got anything you want to say? Do it now. Let's talk to Bobby on line one. Bobby, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And listening to you, it's like the bright spot. So even on a foggy day, it's still bright.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It just melt my heart.
And after I said that, okay, let's go back to the Mark Schleyer, Janet Moran race with the recount. One vote.
One vote. When was that, and what was the office?
Oh, golly. It was for the 4th District in the city of Hammond, and it was back in, I want to say the 80s. It was pre-me, so, yeah. And because I remember the story about Mark's good neighbor had to catch a train and didn't vote. And then I had a recount. I did not bring it, but Mr. Dowling did, and the vote was like 48, 47, and when the recount was done, I lost one vote.
Wow.
And,
What was that for?
She was on the
For
council,
the
right?
council at
Yeah,
large.
she was the city council.
So hold on a second. So you were running in the Democratic primary in what year?
92.
And you were running against Dave Dowling?
I was running
His
against,
father.
I think, 13 people.
Oh, wow.
And so hold on a
his
second.
father. His
And
father
and
was
so
police
which
chief.
Dowling was it?
It's his father.
It was his father.
His father.
Then he came back and won in the district race a couple years later.
But see, back in those times, definitely, and I don't fault, if Eldon wants a recount, by all means, he's entitled to that. But back then, it was really easy to, put some fraudulent votes in there.
Yeah, we had the wooden horses, and I remember it was very fascinating to watch the recount, and it went through everything, all the machines and the back of the machines and all the absentee votes. And I'll tell you a story that don't ever think that if you vote absentee that your vote can't be found out, because it can be.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Anyway,
definitely.
That's a whole other story.
What do you mean? I thought if once the absentee vote is taken out of it, that they can't tell who it came from.
Oh, no? Well, talk to somebody who knows. Anyway.
All right, hold on a second. I want to go back to Janet Moran and Mark Strayer. Was that in the Republican primary here?
No, it was a Democrat. Mark was a Democrat, and Janet was a Republican. And Janet won.
And so that was in the general election.
Uh-huh.
And so Mark Strayer, whom do I know this guy?
Slayer. It's Slayer.
Schleyer?
He was a Hammond police officer. In fact, I think now he's still a marshal in the court.
Okay, so he's like a bailiff or something. And what is so it came down to it looked like Schleyer had won and they did a recount and then it shifted over
No, it's Janet had won.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Slayer had the recount.
Mm-hmm.
The vote was the same.
Okay.
And don't you remember, Bobby, when McNuttall and Higgs had a recount?
Yeah, that was a very sad thing for me.
Because you were good friends with McNuttall.
Yeah, with
Nuttall.
Mac.
I think I remember
Yeah.
sitting in on a card game with Mac Nuttall one time at your daughter's house, but that's another story altogether. Hey, listen.
Let's not go into that.
Yeah, so my point is, other than Judge Riga and Anderson in the 80s, there hasn't been an election that was overturned on a recount. So you're saying
I don't believe there was. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
That's too bad about Mark Schleier's neighbor didn't vote. Otherwise,
yes,
then it would have just been tied, though.
then what happens when it's tied?
Oh, well.
What's Wait a second. What happens when it's tied?
Well, I don't know.
I don't
Verlie?
either. I'm just trying to think.
I need a lifeline
Who do you
here.
go to when it's tied?
All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you.
Governor.
Oh, governor does it.
I would think.
Not on the local level. I'm thinking the precinct organization.
Okay, that's a
Or
good
the
question.
chair. Hey, we know what happened with the county chairman position. The chairman decided that's why Jim Weezer won over Repay.
All right. Thank you, Bobby.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
You too. Thanks.
So Eldon Strong is looking for a recount over Chris Jorgensen. Not to be concerned. Another name in the public realm is Scott Jurgensen, the confidential informant.
Nobody's even confusing those two at all.
You want to bet? I had somebody ask me that the
Are
other
you
day.
serious?
Yeah. Is that Jorgensen? Is he related to the tow truck guy?
Oh, get out of here.
So, because Jorgensen, as far as we know, is the husband to the Sylvan Learning Center woman who got the job over here.
Judge for Hammond. Yeah.
See?
Okay.
So it's not unfathomable.
Well, they have the same last name. The names are actually spelled differently, aren't they?
They are. One's an O and one's a U. So the question was, there's one question is like, all right, Scott Jorgensen is saying, and I think this got Jim Weezer's ire up. Jorgensen is saying he would like to know what Strong's good faith argument. He's basically saying that Eldon Strong is impugning the system by asking for a recount. And then I'm like thinking, all right, all these recounts, I probably covered half a dozen recounts in the mid 80s. Seems like there were more recounts then. Maybe because you could rig an election easier.
It was so much easier. And back then you didn't even have to show ID.
I'm here to vote.
What's your name?
Does it matter?
Oh, let me see what name I picked out of the obituary from last week.
So if all these recounts are going on, and the only one we have is on a Cherville town judge when Judge Riga had won, and then they recounted and Anderson won. And that was in the late 80s. I vaguely remember this thing.
Vaguely, I do.
And then anybody else has another one? I mean, Bobby brought up recounts that didn't happen. She just brought it up. So anyways, and then the second question is, what if there's a tie in a general election?
Then does the Republican Party chair make the decision, or does the precinct organization? That's going to be very interesting.
Why would the Republican chair make a decision on a general election?
Just teasing.
Okay. And you teasing works really well. Let's see how Mad Mac's doing. Hey, what are you doing with your life?
Nothing. I got one, though. I Googled this one. This is where you say, oh, what is it?
What is it?
There, that a boy. He picking up quicker than hell. So I Googled this. It turns out one of our local residents, although not living in the state at the time, it was down in Pontiac, Illinois. It was when the local legend, the tow truck driver Lefty, he ran to be the chairman of the annual Guy on Guy dance in Cell Block D. It turned out he lost by one vote, but on a recount, the guy he was running against, named Two Chins, somehow disappeared, and he was elected chairman of the Guy on Guy dance in Cell Block D.
Do you have any verification of any of this?
Well, it's on Google, and everything on the internet's for real and true. So,
Okay. All right. That's all we needed. Thanks
and
a lot.
you
Talk to
actually
you.
want to mess with Lefty. But see, you didn't get what I said about the Republican Party chair making that decision.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
All right. Isn't Dan Donnell the chairman of the party?
I think so.
Well, Eldon Strong voted against Dan Donnell.
Oh,
So,
that's
I
a
mean-
lot of connections to make to get that
No,
joke.
it's
I'm
not
sorry.
because he was the one that was running for vice president for the council, and Eldon voted for Jamal. So if he had to break a tie, who's he going to vote for?
Wow. What? So Eldon Strong versus Dan Darnell. I didn't realize that they had.
No, it wasn't versus. It was actually.
I know, but I mean, they're obviously. So when you say that it had Eldon Strong loses his position partly because of his support for Jamal Washington, it sounds like he loses his position partly because he has a little riff with Dan Darnell.
Well, and the thing about it, I think even Elsie Franklin voted for Dan Donnell over Jamal Washington. So here you have a Democrat voting for your Republican partner here, because there's only, you two guys there, and you don't even vote for him. That's just not good party politics.
You know what? I always thought it was just the Democrats that got catty and kind of just like lunchroom cat.
What did Eldon
and
say? He
stuff.
was actually looking for a quid pro quo because he wanted Jamal to support something for his district, and it was just not the right way to go, really.
It's typically Democrats doing that. Hey, Verlie and I'll be back for the home stretch right after this.
Theo's Steak and Seafood sets the standard of fine dining excellence. Delicious USDA prime meats and steaks, along with the freshest seafood in the area. Celebrate your special event with friends, family, and associates in our private dining room that can seat up to 125 people. For information, call 838-8000 or theoshighland.com. Also visit our other restaurants, Prime Steakhouse, Umi Sushi and Lounge in Crown Point, and Ted's Family Restaurant in Calumet City.
Ironworkers Local 395, through their contractor employers, the Northwest Indiana Contractors Association, are the workers you see building Northwest Indiana. They are the craftsmen building your schools, hospitals, malls, steel mills, and manufacturing plants. They support local charities, including Tradewinds and Chasing Dreams, and they coach your kids after work and on the weekend. They live, work, and contribute to all of our local communities' economic growth. To find out more about these organizations, visit ironworkers395.com or nwicontractors.org.
Would you go to a doctor that isn't board certified? No, of course not. Then why would you trust in a lawyer that isn't board certified? If you've been injured in an accident and it's not your fault, get someone that's a board certified civil trial specialist by the National Board of Trial Advocacy. Get someone with over 20 years experience who's a member of the Best Lawyers of America and Indiana Super Lawyers and has achieved the highest possible peer review rating of AV by Martindale-Hubbell. Get Gladish. Attorney David Gladish in Highland and his team will deal with the insurance company and its attorneys while you put your life back together. Experience, ratings, and board certification really do matter. Get Gladish. For a free consultation, call 219-838-1900, 838-1900, or visit dgladishlaw.com. That's the letter D, Gladish law.com.
In case you can't spell, they spell it out for you at the end of that one there. 7:55 in the Calumet region. Final traffic for today. Alagar Mahonia Hera Hanyask in a Moda Dan Ryan out of Iskena Hora Hara 294. And that translates to 294 is moving along well up to Cicero Avenue, and then it's bad all the way up to the Stevenson. And you should allow extra time to O'Hare. Honey, hurry up! Jet said it's going to take forever. Sky 80 going east and west looks pretty good. The Bishop Ford and the Dan Ryan they're moving along okay up until about 115th Street. So 115th up to 87th. That's probably your worst part. The Wyskay and the Roll Toad are moving along well. And I've got a couple of texts about that truck fire. And then you've got the Bowman Academy Expressway, I-65 US 30, and Glen Avenue. we're all moving along well. I want to remind you that traffic is brought to you by our good friends at the Ironworkers Union, Local 395. They build stuff. Hey, break for them, will you? There's a lot of iron workers out on bridges right now, and there are some kind of treacherous situations. Just take a little more time going over the bridges and not getting mad that you got to slow down and being just a angry region rat all the time. Just give them a break, okay? And then the traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. It's a good place to start if you're looking for a car. Markets are up about 50 on the Dow right now. And I was going to talk about something, and I completely... Oh, yes, I want you guys to also go into our Facebook feed. Yesterday I did an excellent 17-minute video. You might, if you want to just see the actual recipe, you go to about 8 minutes into it. But I went out to Giuseppe's Italian restaurant. They had the premier pizza chef, one of the top 3 premier pizza chefs in all of the world, in yesterday. And they had it, and I did a little video with it. He took a piece of dough, the dough that is imported from Italy, so it's really is a little bit better. I don't know why. And then he folded over the edges, put some ricotta cheese in there. He fried it. Then he brought it out and made a pizza out of it, put it in the brick oven, and then I eat some of it. And if you're if you're a foodie, you're not going to want to miss that. All you got to do is go to the Giuseppe's pizza thing. And Jimmy Mulaney came out there with me last night. We had a ball. The Gordon's Food guy was there, Wendy's guy. We talked all the Ricotta Foods was there. A lot of kind of big wigs in the food industry were all there. And Jimmy and I got whatever we wanted, and that was a lot. And you guys could watch that. Verlie Suggs is here. She's been with us here for most of the morning. And so, Verlie, we have about 2 minutes left.
So
here.
let me share a story. Yesterday, I'm picking up a friend for lunch on Broadway in Gary, and the street is all blocked off. They got the police tape out there, the ambulance, county cops, city cops. So I just pick up my friend, and I'm like, what happened? He said, well, apparently somebody got shot for getting a 2-piece or something, just to make light of it. But the thing about it was, there was a shooting. A homeless man shot 2 other homeless men for coming to his territory to panhandle. So I didn't even think a homeless guy would be carrying a gun. But apparently he panhandles at Church's Chicken, and these other 2 guys must have gotten kicked off their corner and came over to his corner, and he shot them. Now, he didn't kill them, thank God, but he shot 2 guys for panhandling in his territory. Right on Broadway in Gary.
Broadway and what?
Right? That would be, around 15th?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Broadway and 15th.
Right around 15th.
So he's the designated panhandler at Church's Chicken at Broadway and 15th. And somebody else came into his territory, and instead of using any other conflict resolution tactics, he went straight to the gun. At least like allegedly. Growlers, allegedly, yes. Allegedly, that is what was. There's a lot of issues in that we can't take up other than, there's gun violence. There's,
sometimes reality is just more real than reality.
One of the other stories that I started out 2.5 hours ago is Starbucks has a real public relations issue right now. Because they have to decide if they're a private business, or they have to decide as if they're like this connection between home and work and everybody's welcome. And that has to do with people coming in and using their bathroom, and people going in there and sitting but not buying things. And they got a lot of, they arrested the 2 guys out of Philadelphia? Yeah, yes. Philadelphia. The guys came in, there were 2 black guys. They were waiting for their white friend. And that does play into this, so I bring it up. And they got arrested for, sitting there waiting. They didn't order anything yet, but from what I understand, they were waiting for the guy to get there to order something. And instead they got arrested.
Well, they didn't get arrested for sitting there waiting. What actually happened was one of them wanted to use the restroom. And the lady, the clerk, refused to let him use it because she said he didn't make a purchase. Then they allowed someone else to use the restroom. So then he went and questioned her again. because he asked the other person, did you purchase anything? He's like, no. So then he questioned her again. Then she calls the police on them. And the police come in and arrest them at the same time that the friend who they were meeting shows up. So it was a PR nightmare for Starbucks. I believe on May 27th, they're supposed to shut down every Starbucks in the country to have training for their Starbucks employees.
And here's what it says. Front page Wall Street Journal. Starbucks draws the line at drugs and sleeping. Starbucks Corporation tried to dig itself out of controversy yesterday by attempting to clarify a policy toward non-paying guests that has generated an onslaught of weekend criticism. And I read this whole article, and I still don't know what the policy is exactly. I think they've got some splaining to do.
Well, I mean, it's no different than a policy at a McDonald's. I mean, people come off the highway and go to McDonald's just to use the bathroom, or go into a Speedway gas station just to use the bathroom without making a purchase. So that's something that happens across the country. Now, if a homeless guy comes in there to wash up in the bathroom, then that's different, and you can redirect him. But using a bathroom in a restaurant that you're not a customer of happens on a daily basis.
Yeah, but how many places do you walk into it says bathrooms for customers only?
Well, that is changed now. They can no longer put that in. They're no longer putting that in their Starbucks restaurants. I mean, there are places that say that, but there are places that don't. McDonald's doesn't have that sign, unless you maybe go to a McDonald's where there's a homeless shelter across the street. Then yeah, they're going to have that sign.
So that opens up a whole can of worms of like, all right, everyone else can use the bathroom, but the homeless guy?
Well, it's not so much him using the bathroom as him going in there and perhaps doing other things in there. But I mean, you just have to be aware of your clientele. You can tell the guy who's coming in there with a shopping cart and 5 plastic bags full of his belongings. So, I mean,
you're profiling.
You gotta redirect.
You're profiling.
No, I mean, I'm not profiling. I basically run a soup kitchen for 25 years that deals with homeless people. So no, I'm not profiling.
But now Starbucks has to answer the question of who can use their bathroom and who can. If a homeless guy comes in and they go and they say to him, "Hey man, you know, we can't have your kind in here," and then some other guy in a suit walks right by, doesn't buy anything and uses the bathroom.
You can let him use your bathroom. So you can let the homeless guy use your bathroom. The point is, if he comes in there to wash up or whatever else he's in there doing, that's different. If someone comes in your bathroom and they spend 20 minutes in there, then something else is going on in the bathroom, unless they're sick, you know.
All right, there it is. Verlie Suggs, like always, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, guys. You guys want to talk about CBD oil? Whatever it is you want to talk about, Vito's Pharmacy is going to be here.